Thursday, July 2nd, 1863. Robert E. Lee has a plan to attack the Federal position south of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. His plan is a simultaneous one. Longstreet, supported by Hill, will attack on the south, while Ewell attack in the north. The attacks are scheduled for midday, but the signal for the attack was supposed to be General Longstreet's artillery opening fire. Longstreet will delay his attack until 4 o'clock p.m. Once Ewell heard the artillery fire, he commanded all his batteries to commence firing. A long duel will begin. At first, the Southern artillery did a very impressive job, but when the Federals returned fire, it began to tear up the Confederate positions. Due to the fighting in the South, Meade had stripped Culp's Hill of soldiers, leaving one brigade under General George Shears Greene to hold the hill. However, in the night between the 1st and 2nd, Greene personally had built up the breastwork on Culp's Hill. Now, unlike the Round Tops or the other ridges that facing off with the Confederates, Culp's Hill was extremely steep, slope making the breastworks create an extremely defendable position. At 7 o'clock p.m., Ewell finally commenced the attack, sending the division of Allegheny Johnson to directly attack the hill, some 4,700 men. On top of the hill, Greene was commanding a force of 1,400 men, making it a 4-1, but the slope and topography worked in Greene's advantage. Greene requested help from the 1st and 11th Corps, to which he was sent 7 regiments to bolster his defense of the hill. Throughout the night, fighting continued, and on the bottom of the hill to the right were positions that were seized by the Confederate troops. For the first time on the 2nd, there is a true moment that the Baltimore Pike is being threatened by the Confederate forces, but it won't be long. With the fighting on the left ending, the 12th Corps and 6th Corps were moving towards Culp's Hill to move back into their positions. But also, on the western side of the Baltimore Pike, Federal artillery was set up and began to fire into Johnston's flank. In the dark, however, confusion was taking on both sides. The only advantage was with the uniforms. The Federals in their dark blue blouses were given cover from the dark. Southerners, in their gray tans and butternuts, however, were easier to see. But also the division was in a state of pure chaos, not knowing where their regiments or to some point companies were. The confusion of the night finally brought the assaults down, and even the 12th Corps decided not to attack the occupied positions at the bottom of the hill. Ewell, however, was not only attacking Culp's Hill. He was also directed to attack the eastern side of Cemetery Hill, where elements of the 11th Corps were positioned. Using darkness, they slowly approached the hill. The Federal troops on top of the hill had already seen their movements, and quickly they were mustering a defense. Ewell dispatched Jubal Early to take Cemetery Hill. However, Howard was not about to allow his force to be overrun a third time. The Southerners pushed up the hill, almost making it through the Union lines, and Howard's headquarters near the Evergreen Cemetery. East Cemetery Hill will see some of the most brutal hand-to-hand fighting, point-blank artillery blasts, and some men even resorting to beating bare-fisted each other to death. Reinforcements from Hancock and the 2nd Corps arrived, bringing the fighting to an end. Both sides reported severe casualties. Federal artillery began to even fire canister into the retreating Confederates, bringing an end to the attack on Cemetery Hill. The 12th Corps, on July 3rd, will retake those breastworks on the Federal right, expelling the Confederates finally from Culp's Hill. Lee will also plan another attack on the left and right again. Ewell will make this attack, but fail, and Longstreet will never commit to the assault. But as far as July 2nd goes, the Confederacy won nothing more than a pile of rocks on the Union left, lost multiple veteran officers, and thousands of experienced soldiers. With the arrival of Jeb Stuart and his cavalry, and George Pickett's division finally arriving, Lee had one more chance at a possible victory. Meade, on the other hand, has proven his skills as an army commander, and is bolstered by his interior positions and how well his men stood against the assaults. The night of the 2nd, after the fighting ends, Meade holds another council of war in his headquarters. He asks what his fellow officers suggest. They all agree to stay, even if Lee were to not attack the next day. For the regular soldiers, they sit in the darkness and hear the noise of the dead and dying. Many soldiers could hear the screams of the wounded and the heart-wrenching yells of terror as the wild pigs descended on the field and began to eat the dead and wounded.